Hello and welcome to one of my coaching videos. My name is Tristan Cropley. I am the assistant manager at Bryden Ropes Football Club. They play in the Southern Counties East League Division 1. What I do on these videos is I go back over previous games, talk about incidents, tactics and anything of importance that I think that I learnt from and that hopefully other coaches can learn from as well. If you go on my Twitter account at TrisImp, you'll see my previous video, or if you are viewing this video on YouTube, it'll be on the video below. So what I'm going to do today is talk about a game that took place on the end of August 2019, and it was a cup game between Wellington Reserves at home to Farnborough Old Boys Guild Reserves at home. The result was a 5-2 win for Wellington. And what was interesting though is that we played Farnborough the week before, and Farnborough in the same division as us. So we played them in the league the week before and drew 3-3 at home. And then a week later we had the same opponents at home in the cup. So I'm going to go through the starting lineup, how we set up tactically and how the game went based on that. So let's get started. So today, the Wellington team are going to be in the red and the Farnborough team are going to be in the yellow. I'll go through the starting 11 on the day. So at right back, we had Harry Hill, not that one. At left back, we had Nandi, Dylan and Albert at centre back. The midfield three of Michael Cody, Jamal and Hussein. And then George Fisher on the right, Jacob on the left and Harry Main up top. And we went 4-3-3. The opposition also went 4-3-3. Now, the week before when we played Farnborough at home, there's a couple of differences. One of them was goalkeeper. So our goalkeeper was suspended from the previous season. So he wasn't able to play in the game. So John Luke Daly played in goal that day. Luckily for us, Callum Griggs was back in goal for the cup game. So we drew 3-3 the week before. We were 2-0 down at half time. Went 3-2 up, and then at the end got it back to up to 3-2. Got it to 3-2, and then at the end conceded a very late 93rd, 94th minute goal from a corner to share the points. A bit disappointed. Obviously, we've conceded the two early goals, but also the fact that we probably should have got the 3-2 win on the day, and that was echoed by a few of their players. So, what did we learn from the game, and what did we do going forward for this game? So what we did was we looked at our defensive shape versus how they would attack us. What we found in the previous game was with Bayliss Avenue AstroTurf being quite big, that there was a lot of space in behind and the Farnborough players were able to get the ball in behind us, and also they could play off target men, and that midfielders could join in and that they would play a fairly high line. So what we had to do is make sure that we cut off the threats from the ball in behind, and also that we managed the striker, who was very good at holding the ball up. So what I said to the players in training was that we needed to work on that. So we did a session where the defence were very compact and we were just pinging diagonal balls across into the sort of flank area, and then how we would deal with it. And what we decided was that we would play a very deep line, that the two centre-backs would stay nice and deep. Goalkeeper would be aware of his ABCs and make sure that he wasn't just on his line. And also that our fullbacks would be tucked in, but about 5 yards behind the centre-backs. And the reason being was we didn't want to worry about offside in the first stage of play, but also we needed to be aware of, obviously, the threat from the wings. Now, if you've got your fullbacks in this sort of position here facing the winger and the ball comes across either diagonally or down the line, he's tucked inside, he's facing his man. If the ball goes wide with the winger, he's facing him, he can go across, and also he can come back, and if he needs to, he can turn his body to make sure that he's delaying, and while he's delaying the winger, it means that colleagues could then support and get back if need be, to stop any crosses, to mark any men to get goal side. So we made sure that the full-backs were nice and tight, the centre-backs stayed nice and deep, so that we could counter any of the long diagonal balls that Farnborough were playing in behind us. What was interesting with being this way defensive is that the season before, we were very good away from home. We only lost one game away from home, and that was against Tudor, who went up as champions. But at home last season, we weren't so good. And it was a bit of a head scratcher because we play on an artificial pitch. It's quite a decent one. We have what I would call footballers. We try and play the ball on the floor. We try and play technically. And you think that would suit us. But what we kind of discovered when we looked back was that we'd always play a high line. And we'd press high and we'd try and get in people's faces. And we'd try and win the ball higher up the pitch. And then try and play football. But what happened was all it took was one ball over the top and a quick winger or a quick striker to get in, and then we were in trouble. If you look back on YouTube, at the Well in Town YouTube channel, you'll see some games where the Well in Town reserves played against Peckham Town reserves and also against Greenway Aces. And you'll see that 2 goals that we conceded in those games were because we played a very high line and we were getting done on the counter. So one of the things we did this season just gone was to make sure that at home we pretty much played like an away side. We're very much more of a counter-attacking side. What we were then doing is if we got the ball, then we would try and keep it. And then we'd try and play through teams. But what we also made sure is that we had a very good defensive line. So that was the thinking behind it. Make sure that we're not being done by the diagonal ball. Make sure we're not being done by the wingers. And the other thing we needed to make sure was that the target man, Mitchell Cole, very effective up front, was nullified as best as possible. So Dylan, centre-back, was goal side of him. Albert was covering if need be. Obviously the fullback could also cover. And then either Jamal or Huss could get in front of Mitchell to either put him off winning the first ball, or if he won the first ball, more chance of winning the second ball, either way, and also having cover. So that was our kind of defending tactic for the day. So how did the game play? Well, at kick-off, we kept the ball really well. We moved the ball really well. The midfield 3 were very technical. So Cody, Jamal and Hussein, they are technical midfielders. So what I didn't want in the team this season was the kind of typecast defender. So you can see somebody it's like, oh, he's a CDM, so we just sort of stay there and tackle, or a box-to-box or a ball player. And what I wanted was my midfield 3 to be able to do all 3 and to be able to interchange. So all 3 were very good at getting the ball off the back 4 and starting attacks, but also they were very good at sort of tackling, and they're quite young, fit lads, so they could get up and down the pitch as well. So very good, balanced midfield. And then on the wings, we had Jacob and George, who were very pacey, and Harry Main, who is a boxer tricks and scores plenty of goals. So that was how we were set up to play. 10 minutes in, we can see the free kick, and the free kick was just outside the 18-yard box on the left-hand side of where we were. Over here, ball was lofted over the top, and the Farnborough player got in behind the wall. The keeper was in no man's land, nipped in and scored, and we were 1-0 down after about 10 minutes, which was frustrating. One of the comments made by one of the players was that we're not particularly good in the air, and to be fair, spot on, because we probably only had 2-3 players over 6 foot in our side compared to probably 5 or 6 in there. So we conceded a set piece, which we knew could be a threat, but we just didn't deal with it. So we're 1-0 down after about 10 minutes. One of the things I said to the players was not to panic. Obviously, the week before we'd come from 2 down. In previous games, we had come from behind. But also, if players start to panic, especially if they've conceded a goal, they then go into what I call the bad habits. So then your defenders switch off and they're trying to push forward. Your midfielders then start to try and take everybody on. Your attackers then start shooting from 30, 40 yards out when there's plenty of time left and there's options on. So it was about keeping the ball, and it was about being calm and playing our way back into the game. 5 minutes later, though, we were level. Harry Main had got the ball from a break just inside the half, probably about 35 yards out from an angle, and he saw that the Farnborough keeper was off his line, hit a diagonal, lobbed shot into the back of the net, and it was 1-1. What he said to me after the goal was that he'd seen that in the previous game, and that he wished he'd done that more. That if he sees a keeper off his line, that he'd do that more often. He did score probably goal of the season against South East Athletic Reserves in our 5-1 win there later on in that season, which is a video that I'll come on to. But he's now famed for the long ranger. So it was 1-1, and then it became more of an even game. So the Farnborough midfield three were a lot more deep, which then made it very difficult for us to try and play through. We just found a sort of a bank of three and a bank of four. Very difficult to kind of play through. And it was kind of a bit of a chess game for about the next 20-25 minutes. Just before the half-time whistle, we did get a penalty. And it was taken by Harry Main. Harry Main took the penalty, and unfortunately, he missed. He went wide. Sorry, Harry, if you're watching, I've got it on video. It went wide, and the half-time whistle blew, and it was 1-1. So at half-time, we sort of talked about what we were doing. We talked about, obviously, the penalty and not to worry about it because it had gone. There's not much you can do about it. And if you're going to worry about it with 45 minutes to go, then it's gonna weigh on your mind. So the feeling was, Harry apologised, and the feeling was he'd go out and make up for it. And he definitely did that in the second half. So what I thought at half-time was that although we had the ball in midfield and we were controlling the movement, we were playing some good triangles with the three, the wingers were causing issue with pace. Harry kept dropping to the halfway line to get the ball rather than being isolated up here. We had quite a lot of the ball in the middle. And if Harry was going to keep dropping, then we were almost playing with four midfielders. So I made the decision to take Hussein off and swap him with our new signing, Jefferson. So Jefferson came on to play up front with Harry, and we switched to a kind of a traditional 4-4-2. So the tactic was that the back forward stay as they are, nice and deep, tucked inside, keeper, nice high line, any kind of long ball nullified. The midfield two, so you've got now Cody and Jamal, box to box, high energy players that they could cope in there against the Farnborough midfielders who weren't seeing much of the ball. And that the wingers would get up where possible. Jefferson and Harry would drop to the halfway line when they needed to get the ball. They'd drop to the halfway line to get the ball if they needed to. Jamal decided that he would be the shielder to stop Mitchell Cole getting the ball. 1v1 in the middle. And then, as I said, with the midfield, with the strikers dropping to the halfway line, again, with it being a really big pitch, and I talk about this a lot, it's kind of making it small when we need to, making it bigger when we don't. There was no point with the strikers that we had leaving up here waiting for the ball, having two in midfield and then having this kind of 30-yard gap, because that's where the issue would have been with regards to play. They would have picked the ball up quite comfortably, started attacks, and then we're back in our own half. So what we decided to do was have our strikers in and around the halfway line. And the reason why we did this was to, confuse the defence. So it was, are the two centre-backs, are they going to pick up the two strikers? Are the two midfielders going to pick up the strikers? Could the midfielder and the striker on either side double up on the midfielder to cause a break? Could one stay and could one go? So what we want to do is make sure that we had that dominance on the halfway line with two players that were quite really pacey and quite tricky. So that's what we did. So one of the things we do in training when we're defending red, which is a real deep block, is we make sure that the strikers are back here so that they can support and be an out ball. So that's what we were doing in the second half, setting up a good line here, making sure we had cover here, making sure that Mitchell was blocked here, but also making sure that the long ball wasn't on. So second half begins with 4-4-2, and within a few minutes, Jefferson on his debut has scored a goal. So he's picked the ball up from here. He's got two centre backs, his pace and strength went through both of them and score, and it's 2-1 to Welling. And then at 2-1 we get another penalty, and the easiest thing in the world would be to say we're going to get a different penalty taker, because Harry had taken the previous penalty and that he'd missed. But what we had to make sure was he got it out of his system, both in terms of the game and for future games as well, because he was our designated penalty taker. So Harry picked up the ball, put it down, put it in the back of the net, and we're 3-1 up. Now at this stage we've got good possession and good movement. We've got a 2-goal cushion. Everything's going really well. That is until Farnborough get a penalty, and it was a penalty, and Mitchell took the penalty for Farnborough, scores the goal, and it's 3-2. Now, with about 20 minutes to go, it's 3-2, and you're thinking, well, I'm thinking, this is exactly what happened last week. We got it to 3-2, not long left, and we kind of A, panicked, and B, conceded. So what I didn't want to do is have that situation. So I could have brought another midfielder on to try and hold it. I could have got the midfielders to come back, could have taken a striker off and brought a midfielder on. There's lots of defensive measures that I could have taken at the time. But the feeling was that we could score more goals, and also that the best form of defence is attack. So we would keep going and we'd keep playing. So at 3-2, Jefferson and Harry, first time they played together, linked it really well. Jefferson received the ball on the byline, ran the ball across. Harry got in between two of the centre-backs. Ball was rolled to Harry. Harry puts it in the back of the net, and it's 4-2. And then the linesman's flag went up. Now, at the level that we play at, the linesmen are either the opposition coaches or the opposition substitutes. So the flag goes up, and we're thinking, well, neither of them can be offside, because Jefferson was behind the man, took the man on to lay the ball back. And also Harry was behind him and the centre-back for the goal. It turns out that apparently when Jefferson had the ball on the byline, that it went out of play. Then he played it into Harry. Harry scored, and then the flag went up, which was disappointing, because we all thought that it was for an offside. But if it was for the ball going out of play, that he waited until it went at the back of the net before flagging. Would he have flagged if it didn't? That's something we'll never know. So we're still at 3-2. We're frustrated with the miss. And then Jefferson scores again. It was a pretty much carbon copy of his first goal. He received the ball off of Harry inside the midfield. Harry gets the ball to Jefferson. Jefferson again, strength and power, puts it in the back of the net. Both goals were as if he ran it into the back of the net, and his trickery just got through the Farnborough defenders. So now we're at 4-2, we're feeling a little bit more comfortable, because there's that 2-goal cushion, and we were having shots for fun at this time. It was one of those games where we were missing more than we scored, and it was like, will we ever get the goal? We'd hit the post, we'd put the ball over, and we were hoping that we could kill this game off, because while it stood at 3-2, there was always that chance of a set piece, corner, free kick, penalty, something that had happened before. And then finally, Jefferson wraps up his 20-minute hat-trick on his debut. Not a bad debut. So this time, it was the Harry Main to Jefferson. So similar position. Harry Main's got the ball. He's hit the byline. Players have got back. He's rolled the ball into Jefferson, who's waited calmly, and he's put it in the back of the net. So it was 5-2, and that was the full-time score. So we progressed in the cup after winning 5-2. Now, looking back over the game, sort of what we learnt from it was the only efforts they had on goal, they had 3 efforts on goal. 2 of them were set pieces, and they both went in. One was a penalty, and one was a free kick. We knew they'd be good on set pieces. We just didn't have enough about us on the day to stop that. The other shot was saved by Callum. And I said we had a penalty missed, we had a goal disallowed, and we hit the post a couple of times. So it's one of those games that if everybody's goals had gone in, it would have been 8-3, 9-3, that type of game. But it ended up being 5-2. So yeah, worry about the set pieces and the need of getting height, and we did actually add height to the centre back in the weeks to come. Happy with how we held on to the ball, happy with the possession, happy with the fact that they only had one chance that wasn't a set piece, and happy to progress to the next round of the Cup. What was nice was some of the players, especially the defenders, as they were walking off the pitch, said that was basically the result you should have got last week, that we should have won that last week. So, yeah, so well in town, 5 Farnborough Old Boys Guild Reserves, 2 in the Kent Cup. And that was my tactical overview. These videos are inspired by the coach's voice, which is done by professional coaches, and it's on Twitter and on YouTube, where professional managers talk about key moments, key games, cup finals, things that they've done and things that they've done tactically. So I would highly recommend you checking those out. And I'll be back in the future with the South East Athletic game, the Parkwood game, and then I want to come over and do some on games where we weren't as successful as we was on this occasion. So hope you liked the video, hope you found it useful. Thank you very much.